All right, let's take a look at bringing in this middle island unit. So in Cosmos, we'll go to 3D models, furniture, and we'll go down to kitchen furniture. And this is the island we want to use. So let's bring that in, download it again if you haven't downloaded it. Also notice it has different materials on than the cabinets we brought in earlier. So we're going to take a look at changing those materials. We're going to remove the sink from it, and we're going to add a cooking hob. But first, let's position this. So I'm going to make sure that it's in line with that sink unit at the back. So somewhere like that's going to work nice. And in the camera view, if you press Shift F, it's going to turn on safe frames. And what this means is this is the area to render. So you can see the difference down at the bottom where this is placed. When you'd hit render, you'd probably expect that to be out of view. But with safe frames on, it's in view. And what this means is if we go to the render setup, we can see we have our output size here. If we change that to custom, you can see as I begin to change this is actually what's going to be rendered. So this is really handy to keep in mind. It's very different. So if you had your output size like that and you hit render, you're going to get a render that looks like this. So safe frames is good to keep on in your camera view so you know where objects are actually going to be in your actual output. So let's change that back to HD, and that's Shift F to turn on safe frames. So up first, let's go to the modifier tab. Let's duplicate this to mesh, and we'll delete the proxy. Then I'm going to select our island, and I'm going to convert that to an editable poly. So because these have different materials on, what we're going to do is grab the materials from this back sink unit, and we're going to apply them to this. But before we do that, there's a couple of things we need to do. So let's open the material editor, which we can do by pressing M on the keyboard, or we can select material editor up here. And there's two different modes. There's compact, which is the older way, and slate. And slate is actually quicker in my opinion and easier to use, as you can see how the material is built up in layers or nodes. So we're going to use this going forward. And up here we have pick material from object. So with that selected, we can click on our back sink unit, and then we can see that this is the material that is applied to our back sink unit. So what I'm going to do is select the sink unit, holding Control, select the island unit, and let's isolate these two. So if we select the back sink unit, I'm just going to put out the modifier tabs so we can see more what's going on. I'm going to select element. And as I select these different elements, notice that they have a different material ID on here. So this countertop has a material ID of 2, and the material that's applied has 5 different materials in this multi-sub material. So anything with the material ID 2 will have granite material applied, and that looks like this. And if I select the cabinet door, we can see that that has material ID 1, which is this lacquer material. And I'm going to close this material browser so we've got more room. Usually you'd be working on a bigger screen or multiple screens even, so you could have this a lot larger, but let's just try and get as much real estate as possible. So I'm going to turn off the element, and I'm going to pick material from our island object. So if we go into here, we can see that the countertop is material ID 3, and the cabinets are ID 1. So we actually need to, if we want to apply this material to the island, we're actually going to want to switch over the material IDs. Otherwise, when we do apply this material, we're going to notice that the materials are in the wrong places. We're going to end up with, say, this granite top is going to be applied here. So let's switch that up. Also worth noticing here is these white corners, and that means this is applied to the selected object. And then notice that these are gray corners, I guess is the word. This means it's in the scene but not applied to that object. So when I select here, you can see that it's highlighted. So that's how you know which material is on which object. So now what we can do is, with our island selected, if we select one of these cabinets, we can actually notice that's ID 1, and if we hit select ID, it's going to select all of the ID 1s. So when we apply this material, it's going to have lacquer material 1, so that's good for us. If we select here and select all of the ID, it's currently got metal selected, but we want it to be this lacquer 1, so we're going to change that to 1. And the countertop is currently set to ID 3, so if we select that, if we apply this, it would have metal applied, so we actually want to change that to 2. And now when we right click and assign material, notice that our countertop is using the granite and all of this is white. And you'll notice that I didn't apply any materials to the taps, and that's because we already have a sink here and we have no need for 2 sinks. And also notice now that this material doesn't have any corners on it, as we're not using that anymore and we're only using this material. So that keeps things nice and clean. We're only using this multi-sub material on all of our objects.